In the ancient times, long before the rise of empires and civilizations, there were beings who roamed the earth, giants who towered over the land and whose origins were far beyond what human eyes could comprehend. These were the Nephilim, legendary giants who, according to the Book of Enoch, were born from the union of the Watchers, angels who descended from the heavens, and human women. If you're interested in this topic and want to learn more, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss out on future videos that will definitely surprise you. The story begins in a time of divine harmony, when celestial beings, once tasked with observing the earth, began to question their place in the grand design. These angels, known as the Watchers, were assigned to guide humanity. However, their curiosity about the beauty and complexities of human life led them to a path of temptation. They descended to the earth, abandoning their heavenly duty. As they walked among humans, they became enchanted by the mortal women, and from these unions, the giants, the Nephilim, were born. These giants were not like ordinary humans. They possessed immense strength, towering over others, their presence an awe-inspiring sight. Their size was only matched by their power, and their influence spread throughout the ancient world. The Nephilim were said to have inherited the knowledge and skills of the Watchers, making them wise beyond measure. However, with this power came great conflict and turmoil, for their existence shook the very foundation of the earth itself. As their numbers grew, so did their impact on the world. They began to shape the land around them, building cities and structures that defied the natural order. The earth trembled under the weight of their presence, and the human world was forever changed by the awakening of these giants. Their emergence was not just a physical one, it was a spiritual awakening as well. The Nephilim, though born of forbidden unions, represented the merging of the celestial and the earthly, a powerful symbol of what happens when divine beings step beyond their boundaries. But with this power came a great responsibility, one that would lead to their eventual downfall. The giants, though mighty, were not invincible. As the earth began to react to their existence, a great shift in the divine order was set into motion, an order that would challenge not only the Nephilim but the very heavens themselves. In the beginning, the Watchers were beings of pure light, sent from the heavens to observe and guide humanity. Their mission was clear: to watch over the earth and ensure the well-being of mankind. They were supposed to remain distant, detached from the affairs of the human world. Yet, as time passed, their perception of the earth began to shift. The beauty of humanity, the complexities of emotions, and the vibrant life that flourished on the earth stirred something deep within them. It was during this time that the Watchers, led by one named Azazel, began to question the boundaries set by the divine. They found themselves fascinated by the lives of humans, particularly by the women, whose strength and beauty were unlike anything the Watchers had ever seen. In the midst of their growing desire to experience life as humans did, they made a decision that would change everything. The Watchers descended from their celestial realm, casting aside their divine responsibilities and immersing themselves in the world of mortals. They were no longer just observers, they became active participants in the human world. The forbidden union between the angels and human women resulted in the birth of the Nephilim. These actions did not go unnoticed. The heavens, where the divine order was upheld, were in turmoil. The very laws of nature and creation were being tested, and the consequences of the Watchers' defiance would soon become clear. The Watchers, once revered beings of light, now found themselves trapped in the consequences of their own choices. They had disobeyed a command that had been given to them from the highest of heavens, and their punishment was severe. As the giants, the Nephilim, began to grow in power, the anger of the divine was stirred. The Watchers were soon bound and cast into the abyss, a place of eternal punishment, where they would remain for all eternity, paying the price for their defiance. This fall from grace would serve as a cautionary tale for both angels and humans alike. It was a story of how curiosity and temptation, when allowed to grow unchecked, could lead even the most powerful beings to destruction. The Watchers' journey from divine purity to their eternal fall was a reflection of the choices that shape destinies, no matter how celestial or earthly. From the forbidden unions of the Watchers and mortal women emerged the Nephilim, giants whose very existence carried the weight of both heaven and earth. These beings were not like ordinary humans. Their colossal size, strength, and abilities set them apart. Born of divine and mortal blood, they were destined for greatness, but their very origin also marked them for conflict and turmoil. The Nephilim were a living testament to the merging of two worlds, the celestial and the earthly. Their existence was a symbol of the boundaries that had been crossed, and their presence on earth shook the foundations of the natural world. They were not merely creatures of muscle and size. They were born with an immense power and wisdom inherited from their angelic fathers. The Watchers, having given them a part of their divine knowledge, ensured that the Nephilim were not just strong, they were intellectually advanced and skilled in ways beyond the comprehension of ordinary humans. As the giants grew, so did their influence over the land. They towered over villages, cities, and even the mightiest of kings. The mere presence of a Nephilim in a place was enough to invoke awe and fear. They were revered by some as demigods and feared by others as harbingers of destruction. The Nephilim did not remain isolated. They interacted with humanity, teaching them forbidden knowledge, skills that had once been reserved for the divine. Yet, despite their power, the Nephilim were not invincible. Their strength and wisdom, while unmatched, did not shield them from the inner turmoil they faced. They were born of two worlds, but they did not fully belong to either. The Nephilim were creatures of conflict, caught between their heavenly heritage and their earthly existence, struggling to find their place in a world that was not designed for them. Their presence stirred deep emotions within the human race. Some saw them as protectors and guides, while others viewed them as monstrous aberrations, signs of a broken world. The Nephilim themselves were divided. Some embraced their roles as rulers and mentors, while others questioned the price of their existence. Could they ever truly be accepted in the world of men? Would they be forever defined by their divine origins? As they grappled with their identity and purpose, the Nephilim began to feel the weight of their creation. For all their power, they were not immune to the same struggles that all beings face: questions of belonging, destiny, and purpose. Their journey was not just one of physical might. It was a spiritual quest for meaning in a world that had never truly accepted them. Despite their vast power and dominance, the Nephilim were not immune to the deep struggles that all creatures face. Born of a forbidden union, their very existence was a conflict. They were caught between the divine and the mortal, a tug-of-war between two worlds that would shape their lives in ways they could never have anticipated. The Nephilim, though mighty in strength, were not blind to their own flaws. They began to question the cost of their creation. Were they born to be rulers of men, or were they mere symbols of divine disobedience? Some among them, weighed down by guilt and longing for redemption, sought to atone for the transgressions of their fathers. The divine order had been violated, and they carried the burden of that sin on their colossal shoulders. In their hearts, they wrestled with the notion of fate and free will. They had been born into a world that had not been prepared for them, yet they could not erase the actions of their forebears. As they looked upon the human race, some Nephilim felt a deep desire to protect and guide humanity, hoping that through their actions, they might undo some of the damage caused by their creation. They longed to be more than just monstrous giants, more than symbols of an irreversible fall from grace. But redemption did not come easily. Despite their efforts, the world around them was shifting. The divine anger, once merely a whisper, was now a force too powerful to ignore. As the Nephilim sought to guide humanity towards a better future, their actions were met with resistance, not only from the world they inhabited but from the very heavens themselves. For every step they took toward redemption, the consequences of their origins seemed to pull them further into darkness. Some Nephilim turned inward, grappling with their own fears and doubts, seeking peace within themselves. Others, driven by a sense of responsibility, chose to confront the powers that had condemned them. But their paths were not easy. The giants could not escape the shadow of their fathers, nor could they erase the stain of their forbidden birth. Every good deed was followed by a reminder of their inherent fallibility, and every moment of triumph was tainted by the realization that redemption might be beyond their reach. As they struggled with their destiny, the Nephilim became symbols of the ultimate question: can one overcome the weight of their origins, or are they doomed to be defined by the sins of the past? Their search for redemption was not just a physical journey, it was a spiritual battle that would determine their place in the universe. As the Nephilim continued to walk the earth, their presence became increasingly destructive. The giants, born of divine rebellion, could not escape the consequences of their existence. The world, once a paradise, had begun to show signs of irreversible damage. Wars, chaos, and suffering spread across the land. The Nephilim, though powerful, were also a part of this destruction. They had become symbols of the imbalance that had shaken the earth to its core. Their actions had not gone unnoticed in the heavens. The divine anger, which had simmered for so long, finally reached its boiling point. The very order of creation had been violated, and the time had come for the earth to be cleansed. A flood, unlike any seen before, was the only way to restore balance. The flood, foretold in the ancient prophecies, was a divine reckoning, a punishment for the Nephilim and the chaos they had brought. As the waters rose, the giants, who once towered over the land, found themselves powerless against the will of the divine. The flood did not discriminate. It swept across the earth, erasing all that had been built by the Nephilim and the Watchers. Cities were destroyed, monuments crumbled, and the giants were drowned in the waters that would cleanse the earth. For the Nephilim, it was a tragic end. They had fought for redemption, sought to overcome the sins of their fathers, but in the end, they were bound by their very nature. No matter how noble their intentions, the weight of their origins could not be undone. The flood marked the end of an era in which the giants ruled over the earth. The world would be left to rebuild, but the legacy of the Nephilim would remain, etched into the history of humanity. As the waters receded and the earth began to heal, the giants were no more. The divine punishment had been enacted, and the earth, though scarred, was given a second chance. But the story of the Nephilim would live on, passed down through generations as a reminder of the consequences of defying the divine order. The Nephilim's downfall was not just the end of their physical presence on earth, it was the end of an era in which power, might, and rebellion reigned. Their tragic fate would serve as a warning to all, an eternal reminder that the balance between the divine and the mortal must never be broken. Though the Nephilim vanished from the earth in the Great Flood, their legacy did not disappear. The giants, once towering figures of immense power, continued to echo through time, their story passed down through generations as a warning and a myth. Even in the modern world, their presence can be felt, lingering in the shadows of ancient texts, folklore, and the collective memory of humanity. The Nephilim were not just beings of legend, they represented a powerful truth. The consequences of actions, whether divine or mortal, can ripple through history, affecting generations to come. Their story is one of defiance, strength, and tragedy, a tale of beings who dared to challenge the natural order, only to face the ultimate price. Yet, it is also a story of redemption, as many Nephilim sought to overcome the sins of their birth, despite the weight of their origins. Throughout history, the giants have appeared in various forms. In different cultures, they are depicted as gods, demigods, or mighty heroes, beings who walk among humans, imparting wisdom and strength. From the ancient myths of Greece to the tales of the Titans and even the biblical stories of giants, the echoes of the Nephilim continue to captivate the human imagination. In modern times, the Nephilim's legacy endures in the form of legends and popular culture. Stories of giants continue to be told, whether in books, movies, or video games. Their mysterious origins and tragic fall serve as a symbol of both the potential for greatness and the danger of unchecked power. The Nephilim have become archetypes of both destruction and hope, reminders of the fragility of life and the importance of balance between the divine and the earthly. Their story also serves as a metaphor for our own struggles with identity, power, and purpose. Just as the Nephilim grappled with their place in the world, so too do we wrestle with our own destinies. The giants' quest for redemption mirrors our own search for meaning in a complex and often chaotic world. In this way, the Nephilim are more than just figures of the past. They are timeless symbols of the human condition. As we look to the future, the story of the Nephilim remains a powerful one. Their legacy reminds us that every choice we make has consequences, that strength without wisdom can lead to destruction, and that the search for redemption is a journey that transcends time. The Nephilim may no longer walk the earth, but their spirit lives on, forever woven into the fabric of human history and myth.